In this video, we're going to be talking about the difference between atom and molecule and the difference between element and compound. So let's first look at atom and molecule. An atom is the smallest part of matter and it's made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So it's the smallest part, okay? So for some examples, when we look at the periodic table, could be hydrogen, oxygen, chloride, fluoride, etc. So I'm going to be drawing an atom. Alright, so this is like how an atom looks like. It contains an orbit of multiple electrons. The most outer electron is called a valence electron. The middle part is called the nucleus, and it contains of the protons and the neutrons. So let's look into a molecule. It's a group of atoms that come together through chemical bonds. These chemical bonds create what is known as a molecule. So, for example, let's say you have hydrogen, and then you have another hydrogen, but then you have an oxygen here, and these all connect. That makes H2O, or water. A molecule can also form with same kind of elements. So let's again take hydrogen, and then another hydrogen, and they connect. This would be H2. Let's look into an element. An element is basically found in the periodic table. The periodic table is made up of 118 different types of elements. So an element is practically a type of atom. Each atom represents a type of element. So there could be an oxygen atom that can represent the oxygen element, and so on. Elements are represented using symbols. This is oxygen, this is hydrogen, this is fluorine. Let's see, this is helium, and it just goes on till 118. Yeah. We cannot split a certain element into multiple different types of elements. It can only result in the same element. So this is how it would look like. If we were to split hydrogen, we would just get hydrogen, hydrogen, and those would split into more hydrogens, and it would just go on. It would always just be hydrogen. So now let's move on to compounds. So compounds make up of two or more elements, meaning that it needs to have more than two or more elements. So that means that not all molecules are compounds, but all compounds are molecules. So let's look at an example. If we take H2, that contains of two different hydrogen atoms. That's a molecule but not a compound, since a compound requires two different elements. This is only one type of element. But if we were to look at H2O, it's a molecule and a compound, since it chemically bonds or joins two different types of atoms and also contains two different types of elements. Hence, it is both. So basically there's no limit to how many compounds there can be, whereas for elements there is a limit, as we previously stated that elements contain 118 of those known to mankind, meaning that you could attach or detach a compound as much as you want and it would just infinitely go on, okay? So for example, hydrogen plus chlorine creates hydrochloric acid. Hydrogen plus oxygen, two hydrogen plus one oxygen creates H2O, which is water. So we could split compounds into their actual elements. For example, if we were to take H2O, we could split it through the electrolysis process. So every compound is represented by a chemical formula. See, it's right here. Two hydrogen with one oxygen. This represents H2O. H2 represents two hydrogen atoms, but O, as a singular O, represents one oxygen atom. So that's how it is, that's its chemical formula. Whereas elements are simply represented by one type of symbol, like this. So this would just be hydrogen, this would just be oxygen, this would just be gold, and this would just be chlorine. So lastly, elements and compounds are pure substances, and if you do not remember, it was in a previous video. I'll remove this, okay, put this at the top. We had matter that could be classified into mixtures, and then pure substances. And the mixtures in pure substances could be even more classified into heterogeneous and then homogeneous. And pure substances could be classified into elements and then compounds. Why are elements and compounds pure substances? The reason why is because, if you don't remember, in a previous video we talked about how matter is classified and we put them under mixtures and pure substances. In the mixtures we talked about heterogeneous, homogeneous, elements, and compounds. So elements and compounds follow under the pure substance, and that's because they have a fixed chemical structure. And you have to chemically break them down to be able to separate these certain elements located inside. So you would have to chemically separate. Elements and compounds are under the pure substance group. Example would be gold, that's or Au, that would be under the element. But then compounds like H2O would be also under pure substance because it's chemically fixed. This is one type of atom, and this is one type of molecule. This is all about the difference between elements, compounds, and atoms and molecules.